James had been with his wife, Emma, for 7 years. They were that couple everyone admired, with a bond that seemed unshakable. They got married just 2 months ago on the day they first met 7 years earlier, a beautiful anniversary-turned wedding that felt like the perfect beginning to their new chapter. Emma worked at a busy downtown restaurant, something she'd started about 6 months ago. James noticed she had begun coming home late, sometimes as late as 3 or 4 a.m. After finishing her shift at 11 p.m., she often said she went out for drinks with co-workers. James didn't mind at first, he trusted her. Besides, he had his own late-night hobbies, like poker nights with friends. But something began to nag at him, a sense that Emma wasn't being entirely truthful. At first, it was little things, like her stories not adding up or the way she avoided eye contact when explaining her late nights. James tried to shake off the feeling, telling himself he was overthinking things. Yet, the doubt lingered. One night, when Emma returned home particularly late, James asked casually, "So, where'd you guys go tonight?" "Oh, just this bar downtown," she replied quickly, almost too quickly. James nodded but felt the answer didn't sit right. He decided to keep track of where she said she went. For weeks, he jotted down the places she mentioned: a bar here, a co-worker's house there. Then, out of curiosity and suspicion, he compared her stories to the data on her Google Maps timeline. That's when everything changed. Instead of the bars or co-workers' places Emma mentioned, she had been visiting one house repeatedly. It belonged to her manager, a man named Kyle. James learned that Kyle lived with his partner and another co-worker. Even so, something about Emma sneaking off to Kyle's house over and over, while telling James she was elsewhere, felt like betrayal. The next evening, James decided to confront her. He waited for her to come home, his heart pounding with a mix of anger and sadness. "Emma," he said, his voice calm but firm, "we need to talk. I feel like you've been lying to me about where you're going after work." Emma looked startled but denied it. "What? No, I told you I go out with friends after work. That's it?" James pressed on. "Are you sure about that? Because I've noticed some things that don't add up. This is your chance to tell me the truth." Emma hesitated but stuck to her story. "I'm not lying, James. You're being paranoid." James sighed and pulled out his phone. He showed her the list he'd written and the evidence from her Google Maps timeline. Emma's face turned pale. She tried to explain, stumbling over her words. Finally, she admitted it. "I wasn't cheating, James. I promise. I was just going there to smoke weed. I didn't want to tell you because I know how much you hate it." James wasn't convinced. "You've been lying to me for weeks about this. And why Kyle's house? Why not tell me the truth if it was so innocent?" Emma's voice grew quieter. "Okay. I started to develop feelings for Kyle. But nothing happened. I swear." Those words hit James like a punch in the stomach. Emotional cheating or not, the betrayal cut deep. He couldn't believe the woman he loved, the woman he trusted, had lied to his face for weeks. Unable to stay in the apartment, James left that night, packing a bag and heading to a friend's place. Over the next 2 weeks, they only communicated through email. Emma begged him to come back, insisting it was just a mistake and that she wanted to fix their marriage. James agreed to meet her one night. He didn't know what he wanted, to end things or to give her another chance. When they sat down to talk, Emma cried, apologizing profusely. "James, I was stupid. I didn't know how to tell you the truth, and then it just spiraled. I never wanted to hurt you," she said through tears. James listened, torn between his lingering love for her and the overwhelming sense of betrayal. "Emma, you didn't just lie. You kept lying. And even when I gave you a chance to tell me the truth, you didn't. How can I trust you after this?" Emma had no answer. She looked down, tears streaming down her face. James drove home that night feeling empty. He remembered all the good times they'd shared, the laughter, the dreams they built together. But now, it all felt like a distant memory. He spent days thinking about what to do. Could he forgive her? Could they rebuild the trust? Or was this the end of their story? In the end, James realized the lies had shattered something vital in their relationship. Even if Emma hadn't physically cheated, the emotional betrayal and dishonesty were too much to bear. He decided to file for divorce. "I deserve someone who respects me enough to be honest," James told himself. As he moved out of their apartment and started a new chapter, James vowed to never ignore his instincts again. He learned the hard way that trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's nearly impossible to mend. As the weeks turned into months, Emma found herself sitting alone in the once shared apartment, now eerily silent. The laughter and warmth that once filled the space were replaced with an oppressive stillness that made her heart ache. She stared at the empty side of the couch where James used to sit, clutching a mug of tea that had long gone cold. Emma thought about the choices she'd made, each small lie that had snowballed into a disaster. She had told herself at the time that she wasn't doing anything wrong. After all, she hadn't crossed any physical boundaries. But as she replayed their last argument in her mind, the truth stared back at her, harsh and undeniable. Emotional infidelity was just as damaging. The secrets she had kept, the trust she had shattered, they had torn the foundation of their marriage apart. She regretted lying to James about where she was going after work. She regretted the late nights spent at her manager's house, knowing deep down that she was treading dangerously close to a line she should never have approached. Most of all, she regretted not confronting her feelings earlier, both the ones she had for her manager and the ones she still had for James. It wasn't until James was gone that she realized how much she had taken him for granted. His quiet support, his patience, his willingness to forgive small mistakes, she had mistaken those qualities for weakness. Now, she understood that they were signs of his love, a love she had carelessly dismissed. The hardest part wasn't the loneliness or the guilt, it was the realization that she had been the architect of her own heartbreak. James had been her partner, her best friend, her rock. And she had let him slip through her fingers because she hadn't been honest with herself or with him. In her solitude, Emma began to reflect deeply on her actions. She started journaling, pouring her heart onto paper in an attempt to untangle the mess of emotions she felt. She wrote letters to James that she never sent, letters full of apologies and promises to do better. Emma also realized that her feelings for her manager had been a distraction, a fleeting infatuation born out of dissatisfaction with her own life. She didn't love him, she had never loved him. What she had been chasing wasn't a person, but an escape from her own insecurities and fears. As the days passed, Emma began to rebuild herself piece by piece. She couldn't undo the past, but she could learn from it. She resolved to live with more honesty, to confront her feelings head-on instead of burying them under lies. One evening, as she packed away some of James's belongings that he hadn't yet come to collect, Emma found a framed photo of them from their wedding day. She held it close, tears streaming down her face, and whispered, "I'm so sorry, James. I hope one day you can forgive me. Even if you never take me back, I hope you find someone who deserves you." Emma's lesson was hard-earned. Love couldn't survive without trust, and trust couldn't exist without honesty. She vowed that if she ever found herself in another relationship, she would do things differently. She would cherish the trust given to her and never again take it for granted. Though the road ahead was uncertain, Emma knew one thing for sure: she would carry this lesson with her for the rest of her life.